Hey and welcome to the Simply Create Business Podcast. These episodes focus on businesses based in the London and Essex area. We are bringing you their stories, the journey, and a great insight into them as people and their businesses. In each episode, we explore where it all started, where they are now, and what's next. Welcome back to the Simply Business Essex East London podcast. Today's guest is Martin Caparrotta. He is the co-founder of The Sport Review and has just launched his brand new website, Human Window. We're excited to find out about his journey, what he's up to, the advice he's got for us. But first, you know what time it is. It's straight into the Quickfire Questions.
I'm ready. Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, welcome Martin. We're going to jump straight into some quick fire questions for you to answer away. So first one, are Jaffa cakes a biscuit or a cake?
That's a tough one. I think they're a biscuit.
Takeaway or restaurant?
Restaurant.
Instagram or Snapchat?
Instagram.
Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Mac or PC?
Mac.
Autumn or spring?
Oh, that's a difficult one. Spring.
Music while you work or silence?
It depends.
If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Time travel.
What is your least favorite chore?
Do my washing.
One thing you would definitely take to a desert island?
My laptop.
Morning person or a night person?
Morning.
Favorite album, past or present?
Coldplay, X and Y.
Good shout, good shout. Peanut butter, crunchy or smooth?
Crunchy. Crunchy.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Night in or night out?
Night in these days.
And the last one, if I was to ask more guests a question, an either or type question like that, what would you think I should ask them?
Breakfast or dinner?
Breakfast or oh, good one. I'm going to answer that and I'm going to say breakfast because breakfast is always the best.
Nice.
Okay, so great. So they're just the quick fire questions for people to kind of get to know a little bit about you, and we're going to jump straight in and I'm going to ask you about yourself. So I kind of just want a general background of who Martin is, what do you do, what are your hobbies, what do you like, what do you dislike, all that kind of stuff. So just can you give everybody who's listening a summary of Martin?
Yeah, sure. So thanks a lot for having me on. Really appreciate it. Essentially, I'm Martin Caparrotta. I am born and bred in London. I run a sports news website with my business partner, Kieran. And we've been doing this since we were at university, which is more than 10 years ago now. We set the site up officially set it up in 2008 when we were still students at university in Italy. Doing a year abroad when we had far too much time on our hands. And we both wanted to go into sports journalism. And we weren't we basically just wanted an outlet of somewhere to be able to practice our writing. And so we decided to essentially just start a blog. I mean, we started it with the idea of just having a place to hone our writing skills and practice writing articles essentially. But we always had this idea like that maybe it could grow into something, bigger than just a blog. But we started off as literally just a blog. We literally met in Italy and we just set it up together as a simple WordPress blog. And we're just writing about football, basically. We're both big football fans, and we were just using it as an outlet for us to practice our writing and build up an archive, a portfolio of our articles. So we just started like that. And then we both went back to our respective universities at the end of that year. And it was during that final year of university that I basically won an award. I was at UCL in London, and they do an Entrepreneurship Award called the Bright Ideas Award. And we essentially put the website forward as a student-led business. We won a £10,000 investment in the business, which it was essentially a loan, but it was, I mean, for us, we didn't really need the money because we were bootstrapping the whole thing. So it's not like that was the turning point in the whole business, but what it really did was give us the confidence to be able to, look at each other and be like, oh, maybe this could be something to go for and pursue as a full-time venture. And so, yes, we once we won that award, and we had the backing of, we had some financial backing at the very least, we decided to give it a go full time. So Kieran was studying in Ireland at the time. And so we basically made the decision that we were both going to train as journalists, because firstly, if we're going to run a website like this, we should be trained and actually know what we're doing.
Yeah. Cool.
And secondly, we weren't sure it was going to work out. So we wanted to have a kind of safety net in case things didn't work out. So we decided to go and do our journalism training. I did a master's here in London in newspaper journalism. Kieran moved to London that year as well, and he did a course here as well. So we're both trained journalists. And then after having done all of that, we essentially went full time on the site in 2012, in early 2012. So up until that point, we had been studying / working / not doing it as a full-time thing. But then we went full time in 2012. And then from then onwards, we've just been kind of grinding our way up. And I mean, the first few years were quite, as you can imagine, lots of work and not much reward. But in the last five years or so, it's things have started to go really well. The site now gets between 1.5 and 2 million users a month on the site. And yeah, thank you. And it's it's going well. And this year now we've launched, putting into practice what we've learned along the way over the last 10 years. This year we've launched 2 new websites in completely different niches. Wow. And so we're working on those now as well as the sport review. So yeah, that's a brief synopsis of myself and the business. Yeah.
And you said the obviously winning the award wasn't necessarily the turning point, which I think is great. Like to kind of acknowledge that it wasn't the thing that necessarily boosted you because of the money, but more actually made you look at, hang on, we might have something here. Do you recognize a turning point, or like you said, you've been kind of slogging away at it for a while and you've built it up? Is there a point you go, yes, actually that was the bit that really propelled us? Definitely,
yeah. I mean, I think if you speak to any business owner, there are always going to be these kind of moments that seem to define the way the business, what direction the business is going to go in. We definitely, like I said, the first few years we were working quite hard, but not really seeing much. I mean, we were seeing growth, of course, but like in terms of making it a viable business, it wasn't going that well. But there was a period, probably like I said, 5 or 6 years ago, where a few things just clicked into place. And from that point onwards, we kind of just like went up 2 levels. It was like we went up 1 level and then suddenly we went up another level. And you hear about people talking about this kind of thing with their businesses all the time. Like there's this turning point. And it is funny because when we look back, there were plenty, especially in the early years, there were plenty of times where we could have, quit essentially, because, we could have just rationalized it and been like, look, this isn't working out. We could have quit. But it's funny because when you look back, if we had quit, we wouldn't have known the success that was waiting down the road. So yeah, I mean, it was a lot of slog at the beginning, but I would say, yeah, there was a moment like I say, about 5 years ago where a few separate things with the business just clicked into place. And yeah, I mean, it's been uphill from then.
So you're already making it easy for me, because my next question was about the moment that you could have quit, and you've already mentioned like there's things along the way. So thanks for making this easy. But can you talk about one of those times, just like something that you can remember in terms of where you thought actually it's not working, it's not going the way it should go, or just something that almost a showstopper, but then almost how you turn that around and pushed on?
Sure, yeah. So I think the one that really stands out to me was, so Kieran, this is funny. So when we first started the business, I was living as a student in London in student digs. But I decided to move back in with my parents immediately after university. And Kieran also moved over from Ireland to move in with my parents as well, because we wanted to just keep the risk to an absolute minimum. We didn't want to have like the stress of having to pay crazy rent or anything. So we're lucky in that sense that my parents said yes, actually. But yeah, there was definitely a moment, probably a year or so in after Kieran moved over and we'd gone full time, that we were kind of just like slogging away and just not seeing much reward. And I remember saying that me and Kieran were actually saying to each other, you know, we should think about putting together CVs, because up until that point we'd not had, I mean, maybe doing a bit of work here and there, but not a serious CV, and you know, for a career in journalism. And so we decided to think about putting together CVs, and then from that point on, I mean, it was a fleeting thing. It probably only lasted about a week, that kind of feeling of like, oh God, is this actually going to work? But yeah, I would say that was probably the moment where we came closest. It's not like it's funny, like I say it, but like, I'm not sure we were actually going to quit. It was just more like,
but even if one of you had put in that CV, right, and happened to have got a job quickly or an offer different, the journey could have completely changed. So
absolutely, yeah.
The fact that you got to that point where you were thinking it, I think that's, you know, yes, it's kind of still on the line of it could have changed direction. It didn't, which is great, but
yeah, for sure.
No, that's amazing. Again, one of the reasons I ask this question more and more is sometimes people getting into business, and you know, kind of myself as well, I suppose, along the way, they think that people that have managed to progress and get to where they are and what they're doing have happened, you know, step by step, and it's all been easy, and they haven't ever wanted to. And I really want to almost draw out, as much as anyone will let me, the struggles and how close people have come. So
yeah, for sure.
You living with Kieran, obviously you don't want to go into that necessarily too much, but did that go, was that all right in terms of, that's quite an intense, you're doing business and you're
working together and being mates? Yeah, no, I mean, if we're both honest with each other, it was quite intense at times. But having said that, I think we coped a lot better than a lot of people, I think, would have in that kind of situation. We managed to, you know, give each other space and, you know, respect each other's, you know, situations. So no, we managed quite well. It was just that, yeah, there are times obviously where you're like, oh, you know, working together, it's just natural. Two human beings spending that much time together, obviously there can be issues, but fortunately, no, we're both pretty easygoing overall. So no, we managed to cope quite well.
Nice. And tell the listeners, anyone who's listening now, where you're at now. So this is really a genuine, I really want to give anybody who comes on the podcast a platform to almost plug. But like, where can people find you? What are you up to? You know, if you've got new ventures, where do they jump on board and get involved and listen to all of that kind of stuff? So yeah, please plug away and tell them where they can get you. Yeah,
sure. So the website itself, the main website, the sports news website, is called The Sport Review, and you'll find it at thesportreview.com and on all social as The Sport Review. So it's all pretty straightforward. And yeah, on there at the moment, we mainly just cover football and tennis at the moment. And we also have a health and fitness section, which is going quite well as well. We started off covering a lot more sports and then honed it into just the three main ones. And yeah, so myself personally, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter. I'm Martin Cap on both of those. And yeah, and so like I mentioned earlier, this year we've launched 2 new websites in completely separate niches. One of them is called Human Window, which is a health, wellness, and personal development website. And the other one is called Hello Bark, which is all about dogs and pets. So it's completely separate niches. So basically I'm taking the lead on Human Window and Kieran's running Hello Bark. And yeah, they're both going really well. We're just putting into place a basic content strategy in terms of what we're writing about, the articles we're creating. Like I said earlier, we're essentially putting into practice what we learned with the Sport Review over 10 years into these new websites. So hopefully it won't take 10 years to get to the same place. But
yeah, you're going to apply learnings, right, that hopefully propel them a little bit quicker into where you want them to be. Which makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And things are going pretty well so far. Human Window is already getting around 40,000 users a month. And Hello Bark is not far behind. So like, yeah, it's nice to see we had a strategy. We knew what we were going to do from the beginning, and just nice to see that kind of bear fruit.
And has your team grown at all? Is it just still you and Kieran? Is there other people that are now involved?
Well, in terms of the actual business itself and the company, it's just me and Kieran, but we've had lots of people help us out along the way. So we've had lots of freelancers, freelance writers, developers, web developers, things like that help us along the way. We've also got a tennis writer called Marianne who writes for us, and she attends various tournaments, like literally reporting directly from these tournaments. So we've had a lot of help along the way, but in terms of actual employees, it's just me and Kieran, yeah.
No, and that's great. I think that people, it's kind of making sure you know what's right for you. If it works, and it obviously clearly does with you and Kieran, then don't always have to change it. And sometimes people kind of outstretch themselves a little bit. So I think it's good for people to realize that you still can do it by yourself, and that's okay. You're allowed to stay as a small collective of people that have a goal. So yeah, it's definitely great. So we're going on to moving on to like the present section now. So almost like where you're at right now. And I know you've already talked about little, the projects you've got going on to the side of the sport review. But how do you interact and engage with your community? Now, community at this stage is a choice. You can talk about your business community, or you can talk about where you live community, but how is it that you engage and interact with them, or how do you choose to, or how have you in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things we've probably been, we have a quite big following on with the sport review. I think we have combined followers of about 400,000 across all the different networks, but we probably are guilty of not using it as much as we should, just simply because we're focused on the actual website itself. And although those social is good, we see them as promotional tools, not as the actual product. I think that's where I'll never forget, I had a conversation with a business mentor of mine, and he said to me, he can't understand why so many people are spending so much time on building their social media profiles when at the end of the day, you don't own it. Like it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to a different company. And so I think that's been our kind of mindset, is that our primary focus is building our websites, which we own, the assets of the company. And then the social stuff is a plug-in, a promotional tool for that, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, we are trying to do more on social. I think with these two new websites, we're going to be engaging more with our community for sure, because there's more room to do it. With sport, it's a bit kind of, unless we're going to go on a club by club basis, it can be quite difficult to build a real community. So with Human Window, with myself, I've been conducting lots of interviews, very much like what you're doing now, speaking to lots of people from all walks of life. And basically, we started a YouTube channel, which we've never had before. And we're just putting all of our content across all of our social media platforms and interacting with people via those. Kieran's definitely much more engaged in the community side of things with Hello Bark, because it seems to have, I mean, I didn't know this, but like there's a real dog community on Instagram, for example. Yeah, it's really, really big one.
I know people that follow just like dogs, like obviously their owner and their dog, and that's the page, just post and post and post. So I know people that do that.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Dog lovers, something else.
Yeah, exactly. So Kieran's doing really well with that in terms of building up a following on social for Hello Bark, but also using some of that content on the website itself. So for example, he'll be doing like list articles of 20 golden retrievers to follow on Instagram, like you said, and then he'll be getting in touch with all of those people, all of those accounts, and getting their feedback, getting any comments from them. So that really is engaging with that kind of community. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I mean, yeah, we do what we can, and we try and listen to feedback wherever we can get it. So yeah, for sure.
Of course. I asked the question because there's a real balance between digital community and I think human to human community. Sometimes a disconnect, and sometimes I don't know how how you kind of fit into your business or how your business fits into that. And what Simply Create is trying to do along the way of its journey is kind of bridge that gap as much as it can, so that the human to human is just as strong as the digital, and vice versa. So I ask because I like to try to get some understanding of how that fits with your niche and various different niches. So the next one, which is kind of similar, is about creativity. So Simply Create is all about how people can use creativity to the most value within a business. So my question to you is, how do you use creativity, or how do you think creativity is used within your business? Do you rate it? Don't you? Is it a necessity? Is it not?
Yeah, creativity is always important. I mean, I see myself as quite a creative person. So we created 3 websites at the end of the day. So, but I think, yeah, in terms of like the day to day, it really depends on what we're working on. Because, for example, I did an interview last week with a renowned expert in addiction, childhood trauma, and mind-body health. And for the last, it's a half an hour interview, but I've been working on cutting that up for clips for social, for YouTube. And it's been really amazingly well received. And I think that's probably as far as our creative process goes in terms of creating, content that can be sent out on social and things like that. But in terms of creativity in general, we're always looking for ways we can be more creative. Can we create a new kind of idea for a section on the website? What kind of articles are we looking to create? So it's always, it's an underpinning part of running your own business. I think you have to be creative unless you're super regimented and know exactly what you're doing and what niche you're trying to target. I think you have to be creative because otherwise you're stuck really. So yeah, it's really important.
And I'm guessing you have a real element of creativity that I wish I had that I don't, which is writing. I'm not a creative in the writing sense, and I suppose you get to be creative with obviously your blogs and the copy that you've got onto your website, the articles that you've written, and obviously with a journalist background or a journalism background, you get to kind of flex your creative muscle in that space as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's probably the opposite because we've only just recently started doing video and audio and things like media stuff. Whereas before it was purely the written word, like you said. So we've got we're quite good with the written word. I think we know what we're doing when it comes to writing, but yeah, it's the other stuff now that we're learning, like learning how to cut up clips and, put them together for social. And
yeah, we need to trade places for a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it sounds like we could help each other out. But I mean, it's been really fun learning. It's just really, I've got a newfound respect for anyone that deals with video and audio online because it's not something that you can kind of just do. Thank you. Easily. Yeah, because every time I'm like halfway through an interview, I'm literally sitting there thinking, I hope I press record.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll be getting right back into the interview in just a moment. We just wanted a chance to say thank you very much for listening. If you're not already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, we'd love to hear from you and your thoughts on the podcast, so please make sure you get in touch on any of the social media platforms. And finally, if you're listening to this in an app, please don't forget to rate and review. It's really appreciated. Right, straight back to it. So can you tell the listeners something that you're struggling with? So again, this is to highlight that, when people run in business, they do have struggles. It's not simple. It's not plain sailing. And something that you could this is your chance to put it out there. If anybody can help you with anything and they do happen to listen to, then put it out there, whatever that is. But something, that you are finding difficult at the moment.
Sure. Yeah. I think the main thing that I'm going to focus on the new websites because that's what we're kind of focused on right now, especially now the football season's over for now. I would say that the main thing so when we started Human Window, for example, the reason the name is a bit kind of vague because we weren't sure which direction the site's going to go in. So we wanted to test a few things and see what works. We didn't want it to be boxed into a specific niche. And so I think one of the challenges is how are we going to balance the good content, so that our main bulk of content with actual commercial content that's going to make money as well. So because at the end of the day, it's a business, so we need to make sure that we're able to monetize the website. So I think that's one of the main things, is that finding that balance between the content we write and actually being able to monetize it. And I think we've got a rough idea, but we've still got a lot of work to do in terms of finding out exactly which direction the site is going to be heading in.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think everybody gets to that point with a business. I know I certainly have, that with all the best intention, you'd love to be putting stuff out that really got to your audience, to your viewer, to your reader, and it be, exactly what they want and just that. And then you need to, if it's going to be a business, it needs to make money.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
People, as much as you'd love to entertain people, if you want it to be a business and continue, it needs to have some kind of investment coming back. I definitely have that problem probably twice already in a year and a half, is that my full intention was to help as many people as I can, especially small businesses. And then you realize that as much as you want to help, there needs to come a time where you need to talk about the money, or the money needs to come into it. So it's definitely can be a struggle. So I can feel that pain. What do you think is the most unique thing about your business?
It's a good question. I would say just the way because we're such a small team, essentially it's me and Kieran, although we obviously have other writers helping out. We're able to pivot really quickly. So we could kind of just be going one direction and then just do a complete 180 overnight if we needed to, which is great actually, because that's one thing that a big business can't do. So I think that's one of the most unique things, that we're just able to kind of change direction if we need to at any point. And it's happened in the past, especially with Sport Review. Just going back to the early days of that, we started out wanting to cover as many sports as we can and be like this amazing online newspaper for all sports, like The Guardian or something along those lines. But we got to that point where we needed to focus on what was working and what wasn't. And as much as we wanted to cover everything, everything that we could, we needed to focus on the content that was getting the most traction. So that was when we kind of, literally overnight, we had a meeting and then overnight changed our strategy. And that was one of the turning points in the early days. So yeah, I would say that's our unique gift, is being able to change direction quickly if we need to.
I love talking to businesses about that as well, because I think a lot of small businesses or, freelancers, whatever, overlook that as such a strength. Yeah. Like you said, the large businesses will take so long to turn because they'll have so much process in place, red tape, that kind of stuff, that if you know how to use your pivot, like you say, it can be so powerful. So and you gave a great example. Thank you for that. Do you how have you best do you think to this at this point have you best advertised your business? So something that you've done that you feel has been the most successful to suit your business
in terms of advertising.
Yeah, in terms of and promoting your services.
Yeah, so marketing it. Yeah, it's interesting. So we've never paid for a single advert or any kind of promotion. Everything that we have, the whole business is based on organic growth. So we've never done any paid marketing or anything. But having said that, our articles go onto Google News, and we use like platforms such as Google to promote our content, even though it's not paid. That's what we do. So yeah, definitely Google, 100% Google, even though we're not paying.
Are you finding that, even though you haven't, and that's amazing, you haven't, are you finding that's becoming harder and harder to do because more and more people are paying? So the organic becomes, less because of paid ads, etc. Or no, you seem to be holding tight.
I think that's more of an issue on social media. We don't have that problem with Google at all, actually. So yeah, no, we're just focused on writing the content, really. I think they're the kind of slightly different landscapes in terms of, well, if you think about it, social and search are quite different. Just basically,
one's a pull. So
exactly, yeah, exactly. So we're focused on the pull side of things, and creating as much good quality content. I mean, That's the thing, really. There's no real secret to SEO apart from creating great content, and it's taken us a long time to realize that. You're always looking for hacks and shortcuts and whatever you can do to kind of make things as quick as possible. But actually, just creating good content is the best advice I can give for anyone looking to market themselves. But yeah, I mean, I think we're testament to the fact that it can be done. We've built a business with not spending any money on marketing at all. So
Wow.
there we go.
Yeah, that definitely is a hats off to you. Do you have, and you probably maybe touched on this, it might be same monster, but do you have a practical tip for anybody who's kind of starting out, setting off, who's just at the beginning of their journey, something that you would say, try to do this, or, I would say this because I think this will help you along the way. Just, something that anybody who's listening to that's thinking, I've got an idea, I've started it, and already starting to hit that first struggle, that first wall of what's really for me.
Yeah, sure. I would say meet and speak to as many people as possible in that field, because when I look back at the main turning points, the real forks in the road of the business, I would say that the real big ones have come from meetings with people who have either been in a similar space or exactly the same space. And it kind of just, some of the stuff you can learn from just talking to someone for an hour about their own business and how things are going for them and how they do their marketing or how they do this, that can completely change the game. And there are two in particular that stand out to me as having kind of two meetings over the last 10 years that have really, literally, they're like hour-long meetings that have completely changed our business. So my advice would definitely be to speak to as many people as possible in that field that you're interested in, and just try and get as much advice as you can from people who are ahead of you in the game, because that's really important as well.
I can vouch for that, hence why I'm talking to you.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And what I'm trying to do with the podcast. So yeah, definitely sounds like spot on advice. So moving now into the last section, which is about the future. So this is obviously, I know there'll be certain things you can and can't talk about or don't want to yet. So of course, don't say anything that you're not meant to. But the first question is, what are you most excited about in the next 12 to 18 months?
Oh, it's definitely got to be the two new websites and seeing where they go. I mean, it's been a great start to the year for both of them, considering we only launched them in January of this year. They're doing really well, really well. So that's definitely what we're most excited about, seeing where we can go with these two new sites and whether we're going to be able to kind of see a similar level of success as we have done with the Sport Review with the new sites. So yeah, it's good. It's full steam ahead, and we're excited.
And of course, I know you're a team, but I'm very competitive. So is there like a competitive edge between you and Kieran now you're kind of lead on different websites?
It's a good question, actually. I would say that maybe we have a kind of edge. We probably log into each other's stats every now and then and see how the other one's doing. But although we are running these websites separately, we are still a team very much. And so when we have meetings to discuss the new sites and stuff, we're always talking about how we can help each other and advice for each other in terms of what we've seen work with our site. Because at the end of the day, it's one big company. So we want the other one to do well. So, but I get what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I think Kieran and I would be lying if we didn't say that we wanted our site to outperform the other one. But let's hope they outperform them at a really high level, and then we're fine.
If they keep doing outperforming each other as well, that's
perfect. That would be the dream. Exactly. Yeah.
Have you got a favorite or most productive tool that you have kind of been using, and you kind of whether it be an app or a online service or something that you're using that you think, anybody who wants to get into this line of work or check this out kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite specific, but in terms of creating content for search, we use a tool called moz.com. Yeah. And it's really good for doing keyword research. So I think the key difference between Sport Review and our new sites is that the content we're writing is all designed to be relevant in 10 years time. So where we're writing content, it's always going to be relevant and building up an archive of stuff that's known as evergreen content. And it's really important to do your research before writing the articles, whereas with the Sport Review, we'll just write the articles. Now it's really important to do the research and see what people are searching for, look what kind of questions they want answered, And so with Moz, you can go in there and look at the search volume for various different keywords. And so you can see things that are going to bring in lots of traffic that perhaps are not as competitive as others. So you can focus on those. And then if you can write a few articles around those topics, you'll start to get that organic traffic. So yeah, I would definitely say for keyword research, using Moz is a great tip. And another like little tip that I use is I read a book probably about 5 years ago now, called The Perfect Day Formula. And it's a really good book about structuring your day so you're productive. Essentially, the crux of it is that you should just try and get as much as you can done in the morning without distraction, because then if the rest of the day goes to nonsense and you have a terrible day, at least you've got the main stuff done. So one of the main tips I took from that is to not check my phone immediately in the morning. So I would normally just get up and get straight to work, essentially have a coffee, get straight to work, because that way I can just get into the momentum of the day without being distracted by external stuff. I understand people need to check their phones for work sometimes. I'm lucky that I don't have to check it immediately when I get up. So that's another little tip.
I think that's a great one. I've always found when I've done like a networking meeting or gone to a meeting really early in the morning, the way I'm so energized and feel so much more productive before even anybody's even like sometimes out of bed or whatever.
Yes, yeah.
Feel like I'm smashing the day, and it's that I think it's that whole momentum.
It's like a head start, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
So a slightly different question, but a scenario based one. If somebody was unemployed, just coming out of school or college, and is looking for a job, what's one thing you think they could do to stand out now in the environment to get into an industry? And obviously, in particular, the industry that you know about. So anybody who wanted to write for you, or write blogs for you, or whatever that might be, what could they do to get noticed, essentially?
I think, well, in our field, it would definitely be start your own website, and showcase your writing and ability to do SEO, content research, things like that. And you obviously make sure your social media profiles are on point, because that's important for people looking in. So yeah, I would say definitely it's a case of just showcasing your work in the most professional way, and meeting as many people as you can in the industry and getting their advice, like I mentioned earlier, is important, because that's going to help you build your set of tools to be able to get a job.
2 questions left. One is potentially a quick answer. The football team that you support, considering you run a football website, who is it that you support, or don't you?
Well, no, I do. It's just been a rough few years for us. So I'm an Arsenal fan.
Okay, yeah.
Who do you support?
I swear, Ipswich Town, so even worse.
Okay, nice.
So yeah, I can't really compete, but I have to live with that all the time, unfortunately. Yeah, I wondered if obviously being professional and stuff, but some of your articles you wanted to write about Arsenal or anything, have you ever wanted to sway to write them up or write them down because you're angry or anything like that?
Yeah, to be honest, it's definitely, if it's going to sway one way, it's more the writing them down, and just like I find it much easier to write a critical article about Arsenal than a positive one. But I guess maybe that's just a sign of the times and where we are with our club. Maybe. Kieran's a Liverpool fan, so he's absolutely loving life at the moment.
Wow. Yeah. Much conversation about football right now.
No, I don't speak to him anymore.
And last question is actually your chance to put me on the spot. So I let everybody kind of, they've gone through an interview where I've fired loads of questions at them. Some they've known about, some they haven't. So question for you to ask me any question that you would like to. You don't have to, but it's you get your own back style right at the end to say, right, you've put me under the cosh a bit, or you've thrown loads of stuff at me. So is there anything you would like to ask me in return for all the great answers you've given?
Ooh, let's see. So yeah, well, tell me a bit more about Simply Create. Like, where do you see it now? Like, what's your goal for it now, and where do you see it as a business in 5 years' time?
Okay, so Simply Create is built on 2 factors that are very much hand in hand, and that's creativity and innovation. So you almost can't have one without the other.
Sure.
You need to inject creativity, and the biggest thing that Simply Create wants to do in the future is help businesses of all sizes, especially small businesses, compete with big businesses through their creativity. So part of that is allowing a culture to build up within these small businesses of letting things build and fail and trial and error, the iteration, the pivoting that you talked about, that kind of stuff. And then obviously once you've found that rhythm, really starting to strip it back so you innovate it so it becomes smarter, easier, better quality, etc. So I don't even know where I got to, but basically it's to try and help businesses of all sizes, but especially small businesses, use creativity and innovation to kind of propel themselves and really compete against larger businesses. That's basically the essence. But I'm at the really early stages of kind of starting to build that out. So trying to public speak as much as I can, try to run workshops as much as I can, and helping people initially with kind of digital creativity rather than really getting into the businesses. But the digital creativity is normally a step into then helping them again and again and grow that way.
Very cool. Sounds really cool.
Yeah. I'm loving it. I'm genuinely enjoying kind of the journey, meeting people, chatting to people, finding out more stuff, learning all the time. So so that's it. That's the podcast. That's done. We're done. So I know we had a little break there with a bit of a internet issue, but thank you so much for your time. It really, really is appreciated. I know that your time's probably busy and it's very valuable, so I do appreciate it. I hope it hasn't been too intense, and the questions were all right.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Thanks a lot for having me on. I really enjoyed it, actually.
No problem. I'll be watching out for more of your stuff. I'll obviously head over to your social channels for your new websites. I'm not that into dogs, but I'll probably just go for it anyway.
Nice one.
But yeah, thank you very much for your time. And yeah, we'll watch out for when this kind of goes live. And thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Ray. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave a review, and any comments with any feedback would be much appreciated.